Hey guys, and welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to showcase a build that probably will save my league. And with that, I mean that as a build creator, I'm usually always trying out new things, different things, just like trying to just trying new builds, new archetypes, new items, new item combinations, and all these kind of things. And this league is actually so terrible when it comes to like the build diversity, that it's just not really fun at all. Like, there is like this missing loot thing. There is like way harder to craft things. There's like so many things that are going wrong this league. But on top of that, I personally, my enjoyment in the game is like trying out new things, trying out new builds. And as of right now, it really feels like every build that is not having an Aegis Aurora, for example, builds that do not have like at least 100,000 EHP, they're like kind of a B tier by default, but once you build very tanky, then you're lacking DPS, and it's like, especially trying out this like off-meta builds that are not really that strong as the meta builds. Like, obviously, otherwise they would be meta builds, but you always run into the same issue. Do you have enough DPS? Better take a custom death portal. If you have enough tankiness, my damage sucks. It's always like, yeah, it's a bit frustrating, and I tried out a lot of different builds, and none of the builds actually really satisfied me. And then I stumbled across a build from the user David, JWE, whatever, and he's playing an Ethereal Knives Ignite Elementalist. This is what I have here right now. This is like the super bare bones kind of setup, right? It follows the same guidelines as all the popular Ignite builds, which is Fan the Flames, for example, right? With big Ignite proliferations and explosions here with the Asenath's Gentle Touch. They're like insanely cheap right now, like 10 chaos a piece. It's like super easy to get going. I did probably like sell everything that I had in the past couple of days, basically. And I could get myself a Headhunter belt. So that was about 150 divines or something like that. But that's pretty much it, I spent everything in my Headhunter, and now I'm basically back to the roots playing the Tabula Rasa and some very, very questionable chaos spammed whatever gear. So this is actually, I'm not even having cluster jewels yet. My Watcher's Eyes is like very weird, basically, just like a conversion, and that's pretty much it. So this is like the bare minimum, right? And no, obviously Headhunter is not required, but I was like, okay, I have like, what am I going to do? How do I start this build off? And basically I said, like, you know what, I want to have a Headhunter. I want to have this fun in the mapping aspect. I want to steal some buffs. I want to get super fast, super insane damage and stuff like that. Yeah, but that was like my decision. Now I'm like ready to farm again and like keep the currency going and trying to upgrade one piece by one piece. It's usually just like life resistance. Anyways, what I want to talk about is this Ethereal Knives Elementalist Ignite. And when I take a look at his PUB, I gotta say, holy freaking shit. Like, he's running over 20 million Ignite DPS, which is ridiculous. Also having like quite some decent amount of tankiness. He's running a hybrid life energy shield elementalist with Mind Over Matter, as well as Eldritch Battery. That means that you cast your stuff with energy shield, right? This actually has one kind of problem. When I rebuilt his build, then I was just running a couple maps. And the first problem that I encountered, when you run Mind Over Matter and Eldritch Battery, it's fine for the terms of mana and everything. Especially he does that because of haste and malevolence on a divine blessing, and that costs like 1,000 mana, and there is like no way you would otherwise be able to cast those kind of things unless you don't want to reserve any kind of mana. But the first thing that I encountered is, once you get a dot or something, right, you're pretty much screwed, because you're just ticking down on your energy shield, and once you reach 0, you're getting damage. The recovery doesn't kick in after, like, you need to wait to not take damage for a certain amount of time, and this is like... So you basically have 0 energy shield, you cannot cast anything, and you're basically just running around trying to not get damage, so your recharge kicks in so you actually can cast a spell again, right? This is something that I definitely have to, how you say, trying to fix. I don't know if something like one node in like a spell damage leech, because we're still having a spell here, right? So there is actually possibility to maybe opt in some spell leech. So even if you're actually hitting something and you're ticking down from something or getting damage and your energy shield is depleted, that you can still maybe get something back. I need to figure out how we how we can make this one better. But overall, on his channel, I'm gonna give you the link in the description below. He has here some clear runs from like a magic finding scenario, right? And if we take a look at his kind of point of view as he is currently playing it, it's like insane actually. The speed is really good, the clear is actually top-notch insane. You just go in, cast one Ethereal Knives, everything like explodes, Herald of Ash explosions going off, chain reactions with the explode, plus the ignite proliferation, like igniting a next pack, and there's like an infinite chain reaction as long as you have enough damage, or at least enough clearing, enough AoE and stuff like that. Boss damage, you just cast one single time and the boss just melts. I mean, his PUB has like over 20 million DPS, sorry, which is kind of ridiculous. And I did play a lot of Ignites build in the past, and I like even like 5 mil DPS was fair enough to do like almost all content, not talking about the uber pinnacle boss and those kind of things, but the regular uber boss, like the regular bosses, map bosses and whatnot, should be absolutely no problem running like 4 or 5 mil DPS. And him having like 20 mil DPS, he actually, I think he just recently uploaded a video about him killing the uber elder, so you might even be able to do uber pinnacle bosses with that kind of build. And yeah, after like testing out a lot of different builds, I'm just like losing hope to make like a fancy cool build that is like tanky, has good clear, has good speed and stuff like that. But seeing his footage, I'm just like, yo, I really want to play this, right? He also like made here what is that, a Blight Ravage tier 16 maps without building any towers and having faster spawn rate. So you can definitely browse his YouTube videos, and every time like you see those kind of clips, you're like, holy fuck, dude, this is actually an insane build. I really want to try this out. And this is basically what I want to do in the next upcoming days. I did actually get myself a headhunter, just fixed my flasks, and now we're basically on the start, on the beginning of trying to assemble the build and get things going. One thing that I have to mention here, the problem is he's running an Explodey bow, right? And if we take a look at PoE trait, an Explodey bow with the explode mod here on the synthesize base is about 60 divines investment, and this is just like not even crafted yet, right? The way he crafts his bow is like pretty straightforward. It's just like essences, the same way as I did over here on my bow. It's just like essence spamming for cast speed, and then try to hit like +1 level socket gems, and if you have an open prefix, then go for like +2 support gems, or fire is extra chaos damage, right? So the crafting of this bow is like pretty easy. This is just like a random bow that I found on the ground. There was a divination card turned in, right? A tabula, some life, life resistance gear, gloomfang, and that's pretty much it. There's actually only 3 items in this gear, what I would say is endgame, which is gloomfang, which is the Polaric Devastation, as well as the headhunter that I want to play, right? And the rest needs to be replaced, needs to get changed and stuff like that. So another thing which makes this build very, very interesting, so I did play physical-based ignite skills a lot of the times, naming like Wave of Conviction, you have Penance Brand, you have like Divine Ire, you have, for example, Ethereal Knives, right? So physical spells do have the highest possible damage output in the game, just because of multi-conversion, going from like physical to lightning to cold to fire to chaos, and then combined damage base of our ignite things to Shaper of Flames from the Elementalist. And what this build does different is it's using gloomfang. So gloomfang is an amulet that says projectiles that have chain, so it has to chain before that, gain 42% of non-chaos as extra chaos damage. And why this is actually so insanely strong here is because it is an ignite build. So gloomfang has been a very strong amulet in the past with the old Hydrosphere, right? And Hydrosphere can get hit by projectiles, as we do over here. And usually, or back in the days when you played like something like Eye of Winter, Tornado Shot, all these kind of things, all the projectiles that are not hitting the boss, they're actually hitting the Hydrosphere and then chain off the Hydrosphere onto the boss again, right? Giving you insane amounts of damage. But the problem is, Hydrosphere got changed. It can only activate like once, can only be hit once every second, right? So this like on-hit kind of builds that relied on Hydrosphere to have some kind of shotgunning, that's not a thing anymore. I think people now use Tornado to have like the similar effect, but it's like a bit awkward to play. But yeah, when it comes to Ignite, you'd only need to hit one single time to inflict a very devastating Ignite, right? That then ticks for like a couple of seconds, and you can refresh your Ignite every second after your projectile chained off the Hydrosphere, right? And that basically means that as soon as our projectile actually hits the Hydrosphere and then chains over to the boss, since the ML gives us +1 chain and projectile speed, which is really, really nice for a build like that, then it basically goes from the Hydrosphere to the boss and getting this extra 42% non-chaos, this extra chaos damage, which is a huge damage increase. So if we take a look at his PUB here, right, we go from like a 21 million Ignite DPS. So if I would say my the skill has not chained, we're going down to 16 mil. So it's basically just getting like over 5 million Ignite DPS once a projectile has chained. And this is actually insane, way more damage than any like +2 amulet with like Fizz's extra fire, Fizz's extra whatever, right? But yeah, this is like how the build actually gets so much damage, and I think it's like very cool in the way it's built. I mean, it is a physical spell, so we go into conversion. We're actually skipping the lightning conversion. Normally, with builds like that, and then using like Alias extra chaos, like the same stat as like on the Eternity Shroud, where you get a portion of extra chaos damage every time you convert into another element, right? But the problem is, if you go from Fist to Lightning and then Lightning to Cold, you are forced to run Call of the Brotherhood rings twice, right? Because you want to convert 96% of the lightning damage into Cold. It is good damage, but the problem is always you are forced to run Badge of the Brotherhoods. If you skip the lightning part, if you directly go from physical to cold, you have the benefit that Hatred is by far your best aura, with giving it more cold damage as well as physical is extra cold, which gives you like a lot of damage, right? If you compare this one to Wrath, for example, because if I would go physical converted to lightning with a physical to lightning support, and then I need a Watcher's Eye with like 40% physical converted into lightning damage by Wrath. But Wrath doesn't do anything for us, because Wrath gives us flat lightning damage to spells, which is a little bit, and more spell lightning damage, and this doesn't even scale our ignites, right? It's just like the on-hit portion of Ethereal Knives would be higher. So basically, we probably get a little bit less DPS out of it if we go directly from Fist to Cold into Fire into Chaos, but we're opening up 2 ring slots, which is a lot of beneficial effect, especially now when you use something like the Polaric Devastation, which is the ring from the I don't know, the small Searing Exile boss, the mini boss, and that gives us cover enemies in Ash, and enemies in Ash is basically they take 20% increased fire damage, which is very good for Ignite. So I would say overall you probably don't even lose DPS, and you actually win ring slots, so you can put in something else that helps you with like gearing your character, right? As I said, this is like the very like budget whatever version. I mean, yeah, of course, Headhunter, but if you take the Headhunter away, and this is like one of the issues that I also ran into the build, we're running Determination as well as Haste. And the problem here is, as playing an Elementalist, you're playing a Witch, you have a lot of intelligence nodes, but you're starved on Strength and Dexterity. Like, so far that I put in 30 Dexterity here, 30 Strength over here, the same over here, so I had to like use so many points just to get Strength and Dexterity, also like going down here just to equip my Determination. And Headhunter, giving you Strength and Dexterity by default, is actually really good and helps you out a tremendous amount. As you see, I'm just like lacking Strength. I even had to go practical application to actually get some more Strength and Dexterity, so I really have to like trying to figure out a good way of actually sustaining that amount of attributes. Most likely I will get a lot of these things from cluster jewels overall. Then there is another thing that I was not a real big fan of, but now I am actually, and this is the Divine Blessing support. So in my personal experience, I just don't like it to recast stuff permanently, you know? It's like, I want to have an aura that is active like the other ones over here, but like casting auras and then they last for like 10 seconds or something, this is like one of the most annoying things ever, right? And I was curious, and I actually just straight up copied his build with a Divine Blessing, increased duration, haste, as well as malevolence. And after playing like a day now with this build, I gotta say, this is actually really, really good. First of all, with Eldritch Battery, we can actually sustain enough energy shield to actually cast those things. But what you do is you activate haste once, and now you have like a 25 seconds buff, right? And it becomes second nature to just refresh those this buff every time your energy shield gets like full or something, right? It doesn't really feel that bad. And the thing is, like, with haste giving you a lot of speed, is like the mapping tool. And once you go for bosses, or for example, if I'm in harvest, I want to kill off the harvest monsters, I just one tap and swap to Malevolence, so I'm losing haste, but therefore I'm getting the Malevolence buff and getting a lot of like more damage over time. This is like the bossing thing. So basically I have my fingers on W and R all the time. And then if I'm mapping, you know, I throw in like haste, and I'm having like a good movement speed, and I have like good clear speed and more projectile speed, and everything feels really good. And then there comes the boss. I'm swapping to Malevolence, put down my Hydrosphere, and then just nuke the boss. And once the boss is dead, I'm swapping back to haste for the speed, because Malevolence gives you like a lot of damage, but you don't really need this in the mapping aspect. Not even me with my Tabula. I have enough damage to just run maps and actually have a good time in those, right? And yeah, this is basically the build that kind of gives me hope that, that this is like this one build where you say like it's very fast, it has insane clear speed, you can do magic find. I think Kobe like Mama made a magic find version out of the EK Ignite. I'm a bit torn apart if I want to go magic finding, or if I just want to build like a straight solid character and farm guardians or bosses or do whatever else, right? But having like a super fun and fast build is like very how you say, it's the base fundamental for me to have fun in the game, is having a good build, you know? And I think this is one of the builds that you definitely want to try out. I think that's gonna be amazing once it's fully geared up. Map showcase, I don't know, like probably you want to watch the videos of his final build. And he also has some budget versions, but things like Acid Gentle Touch is actually the very bad kind of explodey that you want to have. You want to really have a synthesized bow with explodey, or you can go with dual obliterations, for example, right? Or maybe you sneak the Profane Bloom, for example, from Occultist, thanks to Forbidden Flame Flash. You need some kind of explosion to have like this beautiful chain reactions and stuff, right? And the problem is glove spots are way too important because you're getting fire exposure, or even the ignite spread, right? So you don't want to really run assonance. This is like, okay, this makes the chain reactions going, but once you farm up enough currency, then instantly replace this explode with another one, just because we're Elementalist, right? We have Mastermind of Discord. We inflict a lot of exposure, an extra exposure once we inflict exposure, but as of right now, I don't even have exposure besides the Hydrosphere that I'm using, right? This actually makes some exposure, which is fine for the bossing aspect, but for mapping itself, I don't have any exposure, so I'm missing out on a lot of damage. And basically, you want to actually run this setup with an Arcanist brand, with the Hydrosphere, with Combustion, as well as Flame Surge, to generate this extra fire burning ground for bosses. I don't do that as of right now. I just strictly have like Hydrosphere on my mouse, and every time there is like a big Essence monster, I just like pop the Hydrosphere on top of it. I don't want to like wait from an Arcanist brand to actually do that, but later on, once you have better gear, once you have better stuff, then you don't even need to use anything for like Essence monster or something like that. And the Arcanist brand would be something solely for bosses, because you're gonna have a lot of damage. So I would say I'm gonna leave you with his current PUB in the description below, as well as the links to his YouTube channel. So here you can basically see his Uber Elder kill with this build, with the Blight Ravaged map, the Formed run, which is basically doing all Guardians in one go, and then doing the invitation on top of that, right? And if we're just gonna take a look at his showcase over here, right, while I'm talking, it's just like very fast, very good like explosions. Herald of Ash brings fun and happiness, and you're gonna be surprised on how much boss DPS this build is actually having. At least I was surprised when I see those kind of builds. I think this has to be like one of the coolest. Okay, this is actually a game crash on his side, which is actually funny. So there is also the Vortex Ignite from Rue, I think. It is also very strong, also like a 20 million DPS. But as you see, it just like blasting this Guardian. It's actually a double Guardian, and they're both actually dead. No, wait, one just disappeared. But you see on the damage part, it's actually ridiculous here, a Metamorph on top of that. But the problem with like Ignite Vortex is just like, I hate Vortex. This is actually, I know that Vortex is like very, very strong, like no doubt. But the problem is more like, I just hate the skill, you know? I just don't want to have Vortex on my left click and then spawn these puddles all the time. Every time I move from the crafting bench to my stash, everything is full of like Vortex thingies, right? And that's why I don't even like Cold builds too much, just because not using Vortex is a crime, but using Vortex is annoying, right? So, and this build doesn't have to use that. Which is also like very, very great. But as you see on the mapping speed and everything, if I watch this gameplay, I'm like, bro, I really, really want to play that. And this actually gives me hope that my league is kind of saved with finally a decent, good build. I'm not saying that I only played like bad builds, you know, like the Val Arc Ignite build was like very, very strong. The Bleed Bow character turned out better than I expected, as well as the Lightning Arrow Eternal Shroud build had also like a bunch of power, but these are only 3 builds out of like probably 15 builds that already played and touched this league, and I was like disappointed for the majority of them. But I think the main reason is just that the current game is in a very rough spot with all the like, you know, arch nemesis and those kind of things, and it's just very, very annoying. And sometimes you're just wondering like, what if I only run like a million DPS, but at least I don't die? This is actually a success story, right? Because it's just so annoying to die all the time. And I think Cast on Death Portal was always my favorite 2-link, and this league it's even better, right? But yeah, I would say just like a small little update on what's happening over here. And yeah, guys, I'm looking forward to just grind it out, get some more upgrades, and hopefully get this build to maybe remotely close to the way that he has built it up. And I think it's going to be fantastic, and I'm going to enjoy this kind of build a lot, hopefully. Alright guys, thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching, and see you on the next video.